In this video, we're going to talk about some of the common HTML content tags you're going to see out there. Again, there's no way we're going to go into all of them. There's hundreds of tags you can use across any number of functionality design things that you want to do in a web page. We're going to really stick to the basics for this and hopefully give you enough that you then go out and begin to explore what are some of the things you can play with and build your own web pages. In the demo, we'll show at least what's here, maybe a few more, and kind of let you see it as it unfolds. But let's get right into some of the common content tags. Now, these tags all go in the body, okay, because this is the content of your page, all right? So one of the big ones, because just reading text is really boring on a web page. If you want to build a web page that no one visits unless they're forced to, okay, build one with no imagery and no video, no visuals, nothing, okay? It's pretty dry. So you're going to want to have images. Images are one of those self-closing tags. So if you look at the far end, you'll see there's a slash at the end, okay? And they have these things, we're going to talk about this in a minute, called parameters, but it's just the IMG. So it's open bracket, IMG, bunch of parameters, slash, close, you're done. It'll put an image up for you, okay? Links. Links are what make the World Wide Web a web, okay? You can link to different parts of your page. You can link to different parts of the web, okay? You can determine whether the tab you're in, the page you're on, flips to the new content, or if you open the new content in a new tab or a new window, okay? All of that can be controlled through link tags, all right? Link tags, however, actually have a region, right? Here's the open tag. It has a parameter, but it's got a closing tag, and in here is the content within the region. Everything in that region is what's going to be the visible link on your page. So this would say, click here for Google, okay? Caution of internet security proportions. If this says, click here for something cool that's free, and the domain it's taking you to is www.pleasehackmycomputer.com, okay? You could be loading something malicious and not even know it. Modern browsers, for that reason, allow you to hover, and a lot of times in bubble text or float text, it will tell you what the link is. And when you see that link is all a bunch of gobbledygook, looks like a GUID, be very careful. Okay, it may be legit, it may not be. Okay, that's why you don't just go clicking on any old link. All right, and so just keep in mind that this parameter tells it where to go. This is what you see on the web page. All right, and that's an important differentiation. So both of these links give me a chance to explain what we call parameters. Now, parameters are used to pass values in and out of functions in programming languages. Methods, procedures, functions, we'll get into that later. Okay, but for right now, I want you to understand that what you're doing with a parameter is giving the browser additional information that it needs to fulfill what you need for that tag. Okay, now remember, browsers are lazy and they hate you. If it cannot find images/smiley.gif, it's going to put the word smiley on the page. If I don't have an alt, it's just going to give me that little broken image icon that looks really bad, okay? It will compress the image to 24 by 39 the way this says, okay? And if I give both width and height, it may squish it one way or the other. It looks really bad, or it may look fine depending on the aspect ratio of what this image is, okay? So you have to be really careful with the values and what you pass into the browser because it's lazy. It's going to do what you tell it. Now, sometimes that is good. Sometimes you like, oh, that's a cool effect, I'll keep it, right? Sometimes you're lucky. Most of the time, you're going to go, oh, that looks stupid. What did I do wrong? Also remember that if this smiley.gif, let's say this was a TIFF and it was a 4K image and it's huge. Just because I make it show up small doesn't mean I'm not loading a gigantic picture that takes forever to download. So sometimes in web development, you have to make a call. Do I reduce the original size of the image or not? And it depends on the use. If you're running a photography website, maybe not. Maybe you just expect the user to be willing to wait for the download of that wedding photograph. Okay? But in most cases, what you're going to do, practically speaking, is set either the width or the height. And it will just constrain the width or the height and use the aspect ratio of the original image to give you a proper looking image. So if it's a rectangle, it'll still be a rectangle, but it will compress to either the width or the height. And you'll go back and forth. In one image you may need to set the height to make it look right on the page. The other you may have to set the width. But typically what I've found is if you set one or the other, you're fine. Okay? But you have the control. There's a lot of things you can control. And if you look up, one of the best sites to go to is tutorialspoint.com. They have tutorials on pretty much everything on the planet these days. But you can look up all of these tags and see exactly what's in the tag. Okay? So, images, what we give it is the source. We can give it width, height, alt. Okay? And those are the big ones for now. Links, we give it where it's going to go. Okay? And these are parameters. And notice that the parameters come within the open tag. So you have the tag name, then any parameters, and then you close the open, have the region, or in the case of images, we have a self-closing tag, we just do the /close. Because really there's no need for a region for an image tag. It's put the image up, okay? So parameters allow us to pass specific formatting or loading information to the browser that it's going to need. And if we don't give it what it needs, or it can't find what we tell it to go load, it's going to sit on its butt and do nothing. Okay? All right. Let's talk about headers. And by header, I don't mean a section of your page. I mean headers are H1 through H6. So be wary if you're in my class for a test question that says, what about H7? Because H7 does not exist. Okay? So H1 through H6 are the header sizes. And H6 is the smallest and H1 is the biggest. These will typically give you big, blue, or however you style them, headers. Okay? So you can have a big title, you can have section headers. And what you're going to see, what a lot of people do, and it's usually around the H4 level, you're going to see a lot of people that they will set styling on H4. And every time they do H4, they know it's going to have that style, so it makes it really easy. And we'll get into that when we deal with type tags in CSS. But for headers, you've got H1 through H6, and any text you put in that region will automatically be that size of a header. Okay? All right, now let's talk about dealing with your common text, okay? Paragraphs. Paragraphs hold small chunks of text. You can have paragraphs on the left, paragraphs on the right, paragraphs that go down the center, but P tags, as we call them, are for small blocks of text. And you can put styling on an individual paragraph, and we're going to talk about that in the styling section. But paragraphs are a really good way to separate little chunks of text. A good example is the About Us page on a web page. You typically have a little bio and a picture of someone. So it'll go, either picture, bio, or flip, depends, whoever wrote the web page is left-handed. But those little paragraphs are typically held in P tags, okay, because you're going to put styling on them, and we'll talk about that in the CSS section. Spans are where you use large blocks of text, okay? Now, I'm not talking about PDFs that you download. I'm talking about if you have an HTML page, a web page that has a long article, you're typically going to put that article in a span tag, the words, so that you can have tight margins and all kinds of control over that span. Okay? So span is for longer sections of text. Okay? I'm going to skip divisions for a minute because I want to kind of come back to that and spend some time on that. Line breaks, HTML ignores white space. So if I put a sentence and then hit return a bunch of times, put another sentence, it's going to put those two sentences right next to each other. Okay? This is why we use tags, to tell it what to do with the text. If I put them in different p tags, now they'll be different. Okay? But if I want to force a line break in my text, I put br space slash. It's a self-closing tag. Okay? And it just means give me a new line. Go to the next line. Go to the next line. So a lot of times when you need just that extra little bit, you're going to see BR tags to just give you a line break. Okay? They're used a lot. Now, divs. Divs can make your life easy, and you can overuse them to where you overcomplicate your page, and it's kind of hard to see what you're doing where. Used correctly, they are like the workhorse of a web page. Think of them as little Lego containers or Tupperware, or just they're little containers that you can individually style, or you can have groups of divs that all are of the same style. And divs can contain other divs. So you can have a big div that has 2 divs in it, that has each of those has 2 more divs, and each one of those has 8 divs in them. You can use divs to organize your page. Div is kind of a modernization of what, when they first came out with HTML, what used to be frames. And frames were designed very poorly. And so by kind of modernizing to the div tag, they give you the ability to organize your page and apply styling that gives you very good control. So if you've ever seen little blocks of images or little sections of a page, chances are each one of those sections is another div that is styled to remain where it's supposed to be. And those divs are probably contained in another div. When you're doing styling, I've had students come up to me with their pages and something's just not quite right. And one of the frequent things I tell them is wrap it in a div and see if it fixes it. And they'll put a div around that particular difficult styling thing, and all of a sudden it starts working. Okay? So divs are very, very powerful, and you're going to use them a lot. So as you start to do this, I want you to really practice using divs. And when we get into the styling and when we do the demo, I'm going to show you that specifically. Okay? So divs are very important. Okay, buttons. I'm not going to get into a lot about forms right now. That may be a supplemental video that I do after we get through what we need to for the fall semester content. But I do want to show you buttons. Buttons have a region. And the one attribute and the parameter that you really want to use is the type, because there's 3 types: button, reset, and submit. A button means I'm going to give it a specific behavior, usually with scripting. Reset means I'm in a form and I want to erase everything that I just typed into all those inputs for my form. So if it's a contact us form and I type stuff in, I'm like, I kind of goofed that up, I want to start over. If there's a reset button, it'll wipe out the form. Submit is take all of the information I've typed into this form, which should be no surprise, it's surrounded by a form tag. Okay? It's going to submit that content to the server, and it's going to send that information back to the web server as a return of that form. And the web server will have code and logic to receive that as a submit from the client, from the web browser. Again, that gets more into a web design class, but for now, just understand that you always want to use this attribute when you set up a button, okay? And it does have a region, because what's in the region is what you're going to see on the button, okay? And I've seen some goofy things from students in here, like, press to explode my web page, and then it does something silly. All right, so this is what you're going to see in the button, okay? All right, so those few tags should give you an idea of how tags are structured, some of the basic tags that we use, and how we use attributes to give other information that we know the browser is going to need to it. How do we give that information? We pass that to the browser through those parameters. Okay? Now, in the next video, we're going to actually build an HTML page with no styling, but we're going to build a very minimal page with some basic content using these tags, and we're going to show you how that works. Okay? So that demo is coming next. After that, we're going to begin to do styling. But for now, I will see you on the other side at the demo.